There was a time that my parents were thinking of moving to California, and I researched it a little bit. It was actually before like living with MD kind of came around, and so I didn't have access to. I hadn't met you and a lot of people. So, but is it true? Like I was told that um, the maximum you can get. So let me back up for a second. Here in New York, I get LPN services, which is like licensed practical nurse services, and I get 17 hours of care a day, and they are independent providers. So they are like they charge Medicaid as if any like a doctor's office would charge Medicaid. Like they
In California, the standard program, it's called In-Home Supportive Services.
yeah.
It maxes out at 283 hours a month. That's that's 9 hours a day.
9 hours a day, right?
But you can apply for a waiver if you have unmet needs. Unfortunately, there's waiting lists for the waiver. They expedite it under some circumstances. I waited 3 years. A friend of mine just waited 1 year. It's getting faster in California. But now I have up to 24-hour care. So I have 9 hours from IHSS, and that's an independent provider system of uncertified people and of whoever you choose to hire. And then the waiver, you can divvy up your, pardon me, you can divvy up your allotment between whatever type of services are appropriate for you. So you can divide it up between LPNs, RNs, uncertified service providers, OTs, PTs, case managers, or whatever. So if you actually need to hire a case manager through the waiver to coordinate your care, you can. But
and is it by dollar or is it by hours or how is it?
There's a dollar cap on it, and it's calculated based on whatever healthcare category you're in. For example, I have paramedical needs. So if I were to be institutionalized, I would have to be in a subacute facility, kind of hospital level. There would have to be LVNs there at least, because I'm on a ventilator, because I have an IV, and I have a catheter. So I would have to be in a subacute facility. So I'm at the higher level of cost. So on the waiver, they calculate how much it would cost to put me in that hospital setting, and they allow me to hire people up to that cap. The caps are not that realistic now. We know the hospitals cost more than the caps on the program, but I think if I wasn't getting enough hours at the level I needed, I could probably challenge it with the administrative law judge.
And when you hire like your own, do you have LVNs or no?
I don't.
You don't.
I prefer to have non-medically trained people so I can break them myself.
Train them, yeah.
I don't want them broken by somebody else.
Me too.
Yeah.
I agree. I always hire the new LPNs. The only reason I do it this way is because there's like, they get a higher pay rate. They get $22.66 an hour.
Right.
And then I can, hire whoever I want, and it's I always choose the younger, like newly out of nursing school people.
Yeah, that way you don't have to unteach them bad habits.
Right.
So Patty and TK, you're both. Wait, Patty, you're in Massachusetts, right?
I have a little story if you guys want to hear how this went, because I've been hiring people for over 35 years. Oh my God. You want me to I started. I grew up in New York, and I have an older sister, so she kind of paved the way, so to speak, and she kind of showed me the ins and outs of it. And basically, she knew this owner of a home care agency who let her and then me in 1979 hire my own people, bring them to the agency, sign them up. They would take that stupid test, and I would sit there and kind of go, "It's B, it's A." I was giving them the answers because they kind of knew, because they used to say, Patty's PCAs always get hundreds, and they used to laugh. So I get to sign them up. But then I lived in Nassau County, and I also I had two 12-hour shifts later on, like after college and stuff. And we kind of, I know, this is confidential today or what?
Well, no, it's up recording. So, I mean,
Okay.
but I don't think they're going to be chasing us down anytime soon.
It's creative accounting. You can fix your hours however you want to, and do whatever you want if you know what you're doing. But, I use all those hours that I do 2-hour shifts. Not a lot, you could do 24 if you sign different days, different 12-hour, you just do whatever on paper. But anyway, and then I was able to, have more quality of life and go wherever I wanted and not have to be home to switch or whatever. So then I moved from Nassau County to Suffolk, and someone from the agency said, you know what, you shouldn't move to Suffolk because they cracked down so hard on all the laws and the regs. And I said, oh, but I really want to move there, blah, blah, blah. So I did. And then things started getting harder and harder. They were really cracking down with you can't do this, you can't do that. They were scaring the PCAs I had. You can't drive a van, you can't do this and that. So I got so fed up, I just ended up like having their people. So I did have a short time of having the agency send me people, and it was actually the worst 3 months of my life, actually 6 months. And then my sister lived up in Massachusetts, and she said, why don't you move here? It's so much better, so much more independent living. And I did. So then I came to Massachusetts, and the difference here, see, right before I went to Massachusetts, they were trying to start the consumer-directed program. I know, TK, you're involved with that, right? Is he there?
I don't know. I think.
Oh, well, it was right before that, and I just was like, I can't do this. I can't have them send me to all these people that, are not people I trained. And so I moved up with my sister. Basically, in Massachusetts, it's time for task. It's like, how long does it take you to pee? 20 minutes. How many times a day? It's really stupid. But if you can work the program, I tell people, take your worst day. They thought I washed my private 4 times a day after I went to the bathroom. Okay, because you want to add up the hours. And I started with 16 hours a day, and then when I got my BiPAP, I think it went up to like 20, maybe 20, and now I have 23 and a half a day. So and it's funny because I was thinking
They won't bump it. They won't bump it 30 more minutes. They just can't.
they cut it down. I had 25 a day, and you could overlap people. My sister had 28.
How does that work?
Because of the test, my sister, she was kind of the pioneer for that. She passed away 13 years ago. She had SMA as well. But she had a trach and stuff, so she actually got them to approve 28 hours so she could overlap people and do whatever. So she made it easier for me. And then I had 25 a day, and then they cut it down to 23 and a half. So I just, But for me, consumer directed is so the way to go because, you don't have to, it's your decisions of what you're going to do. It's, I signed a waiver when I got on the program in Massachusetts that no one's liable. Like if one of my aides cracks my car up or something, I have insurance, and it's my decision. So that's basically.
Well, with Texas, it's interesting. There's a lot of pieces of all of everything that everyone's saying. But well, first of all, I don't know anyone that's getting LPN. I don't know anyone that does skilled nursing. I know a ton of people. Well, I don't know a ton of people, but I know people on vets that are not getting anywhere close to 24 hours a day. I think Vicki Lynn Journey Taylor, or she just posted on Facebook the other day that she's getting 12 hours in Texas right now, and she has a trach. So I mean, that she was thrilled. Like she was like, "Wow, I'm getting 12! Wow!" and I know of another person, Heather, who lives in Texas, who got her CDS up to 12 hours. So I'm kind of wondering if I'm going to be able to get mine up to 12. I don't know why everyone's getting 12 hours all of a sudden, but I'm kind of curious. But the thing is they do the time for task here as well. And I've tried so hard to like up my time, and I take the maximum for as much as I can. But I still can't get my hours past 43 a week. They basically, the theory is if you're on CDS and you're able to manage your own care, then if you're getting too much care, then you're not really capable. Like they somehow equate like independence with care. And so there's like for me, I pay a piece of it based on my income because I work. And so they're saying, well, if you need this much care, how can you work? Like they don't. So it's kind of a warped. Do you get that? Am I phrasing that right? Does that
Yeah. Yeah.
I can't be too disabled, because if I'm too disabled, then I can't manage my own care. Like
but how can they determine? Like, I mean, people work at home. I mean, obviously.
Yeah, but it's just like this backwards idea that like if I need 24 hours care, if I need a nurse with me at all times, then I'm basically incapacitated. Like I'm so disabled I can't do anything. Like that's how they reason it out.
Can you cough without assistance?
Huh?
Are you able to cough up secretions without assistance? If you cough, you have to cough up.
With work.
because I use the you push on my stomach, people like the abdominal thrust or a cough assist. So if you're at work and you need to cough, you're still working. There are things that you have to kind of integrate into your workday, like perhaps during your lunch hour, you do a little range of motion or lay down for a half hour.
I do the exact same cough assist thing as well.
So the push, Green does it. I've never been able to figure that one out. Like,
I just out of the room.
I can show you. My husband's here. He can even do it on camera.
I've seen it plenty of times. I used to watch Karine and her brother get like Heimlich all day long, but I'm like, I've never been able to teach it or show it or get. You know what? I never did have it. Your mother or nobody in your family ever did it to me. I wish in a way. No, that's the thing. If somebody were to do it to me correctly, then I would be able to like show something, like explain how it works.
Make sure to push down. You have to push down. If you push up, you can hurt your ribs.
Yeah.
It's kind of Heimlich is up, but this is like down for me anyway.
Yeah, I've never.
And I have to hold my stomach. Like I have to hold my diaphragm myself, and then they squeeze like my chest basically. And
see, but then they would say, okay, if you need help coughing, then you can't. You're a safety risk. So therefore, you shouldn't be working like that.
Determine what you're.
No, but that's how their bizarre way of looking at it. And then like turning in bed at night is not considered a need. So like there's no justification for me to get someone to stay overnight with me in Texas. Like that's
what about pressure sores?
I don't have them yet. See, that's the problem. I have to get if I'm maybe.
Well, there's prevention. Your doctor can write a letter now, maybe a hearing. Alana, what do you think about that? Alana's like the expert too.
I mean, I think that if you can get an actual, make a formal request, get an actual denial, then you request an administrative law hearing, and
Mhm.
you appeal it at that point. And that's how most of these rules get changed.
Well, see,
You gotta say no first.
my theory, I believe me, I've gone far with this, and the thing is then they say, well, then you can't qualify for this program, and they're like, you have to get on a different program, right? And then the program is where they get you, because if you move to certain programs, that's when that first of all there's waiting lists, and like kind of Alana was saying, like Alana, she was saying about how there's like a waiting list to get more than 9 hours, and that's kind of how it is here. They have these long waiting lists, and then not only that, but then you have to be on Medicaid. Like the program I qualify for is based on a working Texan thing, so like they'll just say, well, no, this is our program. This is specific to our program. It's not that, and then they send you into this like whirlwind of hell. So it just kind of it's interesting to see how different states manage it. So in Massachusetts, though, you can get 28 hours of care a day.
Well, I don't know what they're doing. My sister had that. Basically, they give you, it's weird because I have 144 day hours a week and then 21 night hours. They say it's 3 hours at night, but if you're doing a 21, hour day, it's pretty much covering overnight too. Night and day is the same price. I'm probably one of the people that gets, everybody goes, how much do you get? Like they're like freaking out. I'm like,
Do they?
I'm kind of sister. What?
With these task systems like you and Emily are describing, do they just trust you as far as like
No.
if you say it takes you an hour to use the restroom, do they just take your word for it? Or
No, they have time limits on things. You go through the nurse from the independent living center, so the nurse is really on your side too. You have to get a good nurse, and it'll be like, I'm gonna put this down, and like I have that swallow issue, so now I have to blend my food, and I can't eat in 20 minutes. It's gotta be like almost an hour. So there were certain exceptions. And you really have to kind of overdo what you need. It's really true. It's like on my worst day, I could be using my cough assist or coughing like every half hour.
yeah.
That takes 2 minutes. So you just put all that down, and and the funny thing is, we had the personal assistant service council. They had meetings. I went to one, but it was funny because they had the liaison from Mass Health, which is on Medicaid, and consumers, which is us. And it was so funny because this woman from Medicaid took a sip of water from her water bottle, and it was clear to me that she aspirated it. We all know what that is, right? Aspirating liquids going down the wrong way. And she's choking her brains out. And I said to her after the meeting, no, I said to her during the meeting, I raised my hand. I said, you aspirated, didn't you? I said, what happens if that happens to somebody who doesn't have enough hours? It turns into pneumonia because you can't cough it out. And they were like, oh man. It was a beautiful thing to just see that,
So Kareem, do you or I almost called you Hummus King. DK, are you there?
Okay. Yeah, I'm here. I'm just eating my dinner while I listen.
Oh wow. Okay. So so Carlos, you're using an agency, right? You're in Salt Lake.
Yes, I'm in two different programs where Medicaid pays for my personal care, which is just I don't even know how many hours I have, and then the county aging services pay for my home care, but they both through the same agency. I just decided to choose one agency to do both. It's two different people, but I just felt maybe just to keep things all on the same page in some way to have one agency. For what I understand here in Utah, or at least within our most populated area of Utah, is that the state contracts with I think 3 or 4 different agencies, and Salt Lake County, which is where I live, they contract to the same agency. But I mean, I like you guys were saying about having, picking somebody new just out of nursing school. That worked out. I think when I had IHSS in California, that my best were always the ones that were new to doing it. So, but and then since I moved here to Utah, my personal care assistant, he's been doing it for at least 20 years, but he's really great. I mean, he pretty much pays attention to what I need. So I pretty much I guide him, but then for the most part, he's great. My home care aide, she was new right out of school, so she didn't. I mean, I didn't have to like break any bad habits, but yeah, I don't know how many hours I have, and I really can't say for sure. Like because I'm not an event, I'm not on a Drake. I don't know how it would work for something like that. I think Kelsey Craven, who's down in Utah County, she would probably be better to say what Utah does, but I mean, yeah, I mean, I love having when I had consumer driven. Now, I don't know how that would work for me if I were to go back to California with that, because in California, I didn't have a personal care attendant because there was no room in my restroom to fit 2 people, much less even a wheelchair. So I wouldn't know how that would work now if I were to go back, but yeah, I mean, I've seen both, and excuse me. Yeah, I prefer consumer driven better. I mean, yeah.
Do you have problems with coverage?
Like, what do you mean?
Like, do your nurses or your attendants show up do they show up on time? Do they ever not come? I mean, do you have someone come every day?
No, I have my personal care attendant. He comes 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, Fridays, and then my home care aide, she comes in Tuesdays and Fridays. I think my home care, she only gets, let's see, I think I only get 48 hours with her total a month.
Wow.
But I mean, because I don't require, I mean, maybe because I don't require as much. I mean, because she does. Well, also I also have Meals on Wheels, so I think that cuts into less for food preparation. But yeah, 48 hours. It gets a little close sometimes, but I mean, for me personally, it's it's almost okay. I mean, but that's just me.
Well, I think that also the level of care makes a difference. Like when I was using agencies primarily when well, first of all, in New York it was weird when I lived there because it was based on the county you were in, a lot of it. And so I lived in a county where the maximum I could get was 2 hours a day. And so in the mornings, my dad would have somebody come and get me up. And so when I was only working with 2 hours a day, I didn't really want to, you can't really create a staff on that. You can't do a consumer directed thing. So I just, I just remember like having just whoever came and then they'd come every day for 2 hours,
Well, consumer directed is different than that, though.
Where was that? Where was that?
That can be the same as consumer directed. I mean, for example, in California, someone might only need 2 hours a day, but
right. Well, when I was young, I just didn't know anything at all, and like I said, I wasn't getting a lot of hours, and so I just kind of took what I got, But I could almost, like, I don't know. Now I don't know. I can't imagine having an agency staff my situation and cover me and because of my needs in the way that I can do it myself.
Right. But I remember back in California, just IHS alone, I got 82 hours a month.
Right.
That was just IHS. That's without personal care. Like I said, because I didn't have the room to have
Yeah,
some.
but that's just domestic services.
Right.
Right. TK, do you have anything to say?
Yeah, my salad is delicious.
Salad is delicious. Thank you.
Well, what you were saying about going through the county, that's actually changing now in New York because they're implementing managed care throughout
Yeah.
the whole state. So pretty soon the whole county thing is gonna disappear.
Is that a
Wow.
good thing?
What's that?
So is this managed care thing? Are you trying to say the managed care thing is a good thing?
I don't think it's a great thing because what the governor and the legislature are doing is they're passing responsibility to the managed care companies. And what the managed care companies do, they get paid a flat rate to provide services. So whether you need therapy, whether you have to go to the doctor, whether you need medicine, whether you need personal care, they get a flat capitated rate per month. And as one of the consumer delivery companies, one of the fiscal intermediaries, they're not paying enough to cover all of the standard expenses associated with the care. So, for instance, they send out hourly contracts to the fiscal intermediaries, and we're seeing that they want to cut our rate, so they're offering us like $15 an hour to provide the care. Now we have to pay the worker at least 10, plus all the standard taxes and fees that go along with employment. So we pay the FICA. So in a way, I think it's a bad idea because it's easy when there's a bureaucrat at the county level to hold somebody accountable for politically. But when it's a nameless, faceless insurance company bureaucrat, it's hard to hold anybody accountable. And they don't really do a good job of explaining due process rights at all. So a nurse will kind of make up things as she goes along, and then the person doesn't even know how to file an appeal. In some ways, it's not working out well at all.
Yeah, I agree. And then outside of the home care field, I think there's going to be a lot more problems with getting medical equipment. Like you have to go only to certain DME providers, like that are in your care system. It's going to be a mess, I think.
TK, I have a question with you. Do you have full hours, do you have full-time hours and stuff? New York?
That helps 24 hours a day.
24, right. My friend Brian Cruz, who just passed away a few months ago, had.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
What?
I said yes. Just like Brian. Yep.
Yeah, we had the same. I hooked him up with the agency. I was using that, let him hire his own people like I did until they got the county thing kicked in, and I really had a hard time, so I just moved up here. But see, in New York, you can get 24-hour coverage.
I've had a couple of clients out in Suffolk County, and the social services office out there, the county offices, which regulates home care on the county level, is the worst in the entire state. They
Yeah,
are awful. They're just mean, angry, stupid, incompetent people.
Don't go to Suffolk County. That's the point of this presentation.
what?
Don't go to Suffolk County.
Emily, where did you live before you lived in Texas?
I lived in upstate New York, outside of Rochester, and
So you did live. Okay.
I lived in Livingston County,
Okay.
a farm town, and I don't think many people had services in Livingston County.
We were almost thinking of moving back to New York, but I'm a little skittish about having those problems. you know.
I don't know. It's so do you so I have a question for Alana. Alana, do you find that okay, so let me rephrase. When I was looking at moving states, I've always wanted to live in California, and I called an independent living center and I asked about services, and I was basically told by the person at the ILC to go away and not come and ruin their state. Like I was basically they were basically like, no, don't come here. There's nothing for you. It was almost like this fear of people with disabilities coming and eating up all the services. And I can, so I just was wondering, like, do you, as a Californian, and probably if we had to do a poll, I'm sure it's like in the top 5 states for attending care. Would you? I mean, how do you feel about that whole thing? Like, do you?
I think that's more of a statement about the ILCs. Our ILCs are really mixed, and within the ILCs, there's a lot of people who really suck.
Right.
And I work at one, so and I've also been on the receiving end when I worked at the ILC and answered the phones a lot. So I think part of it is when someone calls an ILC and says, "Hey, how do I move there?" You're asking such a gigantic question, and there really is no infrastructure for people with disabilities to move from state to state. So a lot of the people you're going to encounter on the phone have no freaking idea how to do it.
Do you know?
I can relate to that. Actually, I had the same experience when I moved here to Utah. They're like, "Why do you want to live here? Especially you're a liberal, you're gay, you're Latino. Why?" You know. But then also, having lived in different areas of Los Angeles County in California, I noticed that also, yeah, ILCs are different. The last ILC I dealt with in California is the one in Van Nuys, California, in the San Fernando Valley area. And they were very basic. Nobody with a disability worked there. It was just horrible compared to when I was a client of WCIL, Westside Center for Independent Living. And I've heard Cal Life in Los Angeles is also great. I've heard Dale McIntosh in Orange County are great, but it's just a hit and miss with ILCs.
So, but I mean, as far as like, if somebody wanted to relocate for care, right? What would you recommend that they do? Like, where would you say to start as far as that process is?
Well, my advice is, no matter what you do, you need 2 to 3 months of care arranged out of pocket. Maybe even 4 months. You need to have someone who's going to move with you and help you with the care and the setup and everything that you need. And they have to be able to wait for the state to reimburse them. The programs in California do pay retroactive to the day you apply. But you have to be able to wait for that money. So you have to have money. You have to have a place to land. You have to have a place to land for longer than you think you need. It's really hard to find housing in California. Those are my 2 big pieces.
Well, I moved here from New York after college, and I brought somebody with me for a month, and I got the agency in Pennsylvania. I told the agency I was going on vacation, and so Pennsylvania, good old Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania was a great state to get care in, and they said that they would pay for my attendant to go on vacation with me to Austin, and they could stretch it for a month, and so. And I honestly didn't know if it would work out, and I might have ended up making it a vacation, but I didn't. And so she came out here and got paid. I can't remember what she made a day. I don't remember what I was getting in Pennsylvania. I want to say it wasn't much more than what I'm getting now. But anyway, so she had some income coming in for that month, and I managed to pull it together in my relocation within a month. What about New York? I mean, we have people that are leaving. Like we have our friend Dominic is leaving Ohio and moving to New York. Would you guys say the same thing? Would you say the same kind of advice?
It depends on where you're going,
Yeah.
and like I know somebody other than Dominic that has moved to New York, and he ended up in a rehab hospital for about a year and a half, 2 years, and then he got out. Then I know another person that moved from Alabama to New York, right? But she knew people, and we kind of pulled some strings and got her into there's one managed care company in New York City called Independence Care Systems, and they really specialize in people with disabilities. So we were able to get her kind of lined up with them in advance. And so they had she came up on a Saturday, and then we had a nurse at her apartment on Monday to do the assessment, and I think we got care Saturday, like within 2 or 3 days. So that was unusual in that they were kind of new in their operation. They didn't have that many people, and so it was like partly because she knew the right people, it happened. But I think Alana is right about on target. It takes a couple of months to get things really situated, and the housing is the hard part.
So here's a question, and just because I want to kind of, the title is pros and cons. So I guess I want to go around and just say, basically, for you to list what your preferred method of managing your attendant care or not managing it, if you prefer agency. I have a feeling we're all pretty much CDS, but I'd like you to talk about one pro of it and why you find that to be a pro, and then one con, and then how you kind of handle that challenge, handle that con. So if you don't mind, Alana, will you start that for me?
Well, I'm going to break your rule and probably not answer the question the way you want me to, but in my work as an advocate, in California, the con of the consumer-directed programs is it doesn't really properly serve people who are not that good at hiring. And I can think of 20 people off the top of my head who can generally hire people Monday through Friday, but they can't get it together for weekend shifts. So these people would really do well with a dual model where they could choose to designate some of their hours for consumer directed and some of it through agency to help them fill the shifts that they're not able to fill. For people who have the cognitive skills and the time and the knowledge and the education, consumer-directed care is awesome. It gives you freedom that you can't have with an agency. I don't have to come home to meet the next nurse for the next shift. I can hire attendants who are able to meet me wherever the heck I want, And if I fire someone, I don't get in trouble for being difficult.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Corrine, would you like to share your pro and a con and basically a way of you tackling it?
A pro and a con of both, right?
Well, if you want to talk about both, you can. It's up to you.
Because I have had both models. Actually, right now I'm having both.
Yeah, talk a little bit about that.
It'll become a new. For the past years or so, I've hired independent nurses, and lately I had a few nurses move away and start different schedules, and I was having a real trouble. So it's a little complicated. I'm trying to keep it kind of simple, but basically with the payment scheme, I'm a what they call low tech case, and I'm one of the very, very few low tech cases in the county. So nurses, the independent nurses who are in this system, who are available to hire, they all prefer going to the high tech cases because they get like $10 more an hour. So I was having really a real hard time finding nurses that were dependable because everyone wanted the higher pay positions, of course. So I ended up turning to an agency recently to cover some of my hours. And I did find, I found one agency who's been relatively flexible with me. So I guess a con of having is that you have to be like on your toes at all times, and you have to always have like a backup system and this and that. Not that the agencies are really providing a great backup system, but they do have more readily available pool of nurses to turn to. So I would say that was the con, but I still would never, I would absolutely limit my use of an agency. I don't, I'm a control freak, and I don't like to relinquish the control over my my schedule, my day, and my who I hire. So, and then I think a major con of the agency too is it's really intrusive. I have to have an RN, a supervising RN, a month to like take my vital signs. It's like, I don't know. I know when I need my vital signs taken, and I don't feel like it should be mandated. And
I found it very intrusive as well. It was almost violating at times. Like I didn't appreciate people coming into my house and treating me like a patient. Like, especially when I wasn't sick. It was the medical model was very, very prominent in the agency world.
Okay.
That it hurt my feelings sometimes. It just made me feel kind of like less of a person. And so yeah, I think I agree with you on that, Cream, for sure. I think that the hard part is, a lot of it is, it's just the ability to become a manager. That, Alana said it perfectly. It's not everybody is a manager. Not everyone's able to do it. So that's true. So let's go to Patty. You want to talk a little bit about like a pro and a con of your situation and how you got over the con?
Well, the pro, I like something, is, you can do, again, it's consumer directed, so you make your own rules, you run your own life. I hate the whole medical model so much that in my orientation packet, I have a dress code, and I say, no, absolutely no uniforms. Don't even wear scrubs. I will send you home. Like, that's how I got. Because it's like, when I'm in the hospital and I can't breathe, okay, that's different. I don't want to think about it. I don't want anything like, institutional at all. I can set my own boundaries. The fact that, I'm married, I live with my husband, and, we like our privacy, and, I can be my own person. Another thing about going to an agency is you're not supposed to leave the county. I used to go to Florida and take some of the aids that I was able to sign up myself way back when. And then the Medicaid nurse would be at the door. And here I am in the tan in January. So I'm like, put me in bed and cover me up. I'm going to tell her I'm sleeping. Hi, I'm not feeling good. So my little face would pop out. God forbid, like she'd be like, where did you go, So that was a big thing too. It's not being able to leave the county, blah, blah, blah. So I love the fact that I can hire the people that will fit into my life, not that I have to fit into their lives. Also, a big con for me is like a con against it, what would be good about an agency kind of thing is when someone calls in sick. They have someone that, as someone said before, they can take their place. What I do is I try to say to people, you may be required to stay. You get paid for it, if there's an emergency and I can't find a backup. Finding backups are hard because you can't pay, unless you pay somebody to be on call, most people don't sit around waiting for you to call them. So to have the substitute part, that's hard. I try to overcome it by telling people, they can't. I need 3 weeks notice if they want a day off. I have people work like 24 shifts a week, 24-hour shifts. So they have lots of other days to do their own life. And then, what was I going to say? If somebody's calling out a lot, I may say, you may need to rethink this position because you really need to have more of a commitment to the job, That's kind of how I get around the getting stuck if someone calls out. But that's hard because it's the agency's responsibility when you do have an agency doing it to send somebody over there. So that's the one thing that's hard with CB. Yeah.
Well, it was funny. This past week, my go-to Nemo took her children to Disney World. That bitch. How dare she go on vacation? So she took her kids to Disney World and left me, and I had my backup attendant filling in, who's a wonderful person, but she's 22 years old and she doesn't have the commitment level that Nemo has, who's been with me for 15 years, and so. Ayan was like moaning and groaning and just kind of like not into it. And I was really nervous. And then like on the third day, she came in and she had like a fever of 101. And she was like shivering, and she was like, she's like, I'm getting sick. And I was just like, oh no. Because I was like, what am I going to do? Like, it's my backup. I don't have a backup for the backup. So I gave her a Z-Pack.
1 second.
I know. And I was like, you have a fever. You have, these are the things. I have an extra Z-Pack laying around. And I was like, here. Because I didn't have time for her to call off and go to the doctor. So she took the Z-Pack and she took basically like a 24 hours off, and she got better. And she came back like popping. She came back like 24 hours later, and she's like, I feel great. And I was like, yes, I cured her. But it was really illegal and really wrong. But I did it because I had no other option. I didn't have the backup for the backup. And I had to call a former attendant who isn't on my payroll anymore to fill in that night for her because she was dying. And so so my former attendant came in, and I gave her like a $25 gift certificate for coming in and helping me like on a moment's notice. So, but I mean, it was a little stressful. So I get what you're saying. I feed them vitamins, and I give them. I have like a pharmacy in my house of what's that zinc? What's that stuff? The zinc lozenges and stuff like that. And I have it all on hand. So in case, they start to feel a little weird, I'm like, take this. And I load them up with vitamin C, and it's funny. But,
I give them garlic.
Wait, what did you say?
I give them garlic.
Yes, the garlic. Yeah, I've done that for them. I have. I've given them your garlic concoction. When they're tired, I give them energy drinks. I do everything I have to do to keep them going. So anyway, hi Michael, it's good to see you.
Hi, how's everybody?
Good.
Good.
We were kind of talking about our care situations, and I was asking for basically pros and cons on your end. Tell us a little bit about what you do.
Oh, I'm strictly agency model at this point, and actually, currently undergoing my second agency change in a year. Basically, for the past two agencies I've been in, both of them were caught up in either political scandals or some sort of lawsuit where some of the attendants that they hired, mostly female attendants, had some sort of worker comp issues. So the government contracts that they were operating under were either pulled or they switched over strictly to managed long-term care program, which don't operate under the same type of government contracts. Mm-hmm. So basically now I have 4 attendants. I get split shift 24-hour. So I have 4 attendants. 3 of them are coming with. One of them has decided not to. So when I get to the new agency, it's going to be yet another round of locating, finding, and training somebody new, while the 3 that are coming with are going to do fill-in until more or less situated with the new person that's going to come on.
So the agency still, though, is responsible for finding that person, right?
Exactly.
So what do you like about that? I mean, as far as we talk a lot about our, feeling more independent, more in control, do you feel that you're able, to kind of get a stable situation with the agencies?
Yeah, absolutely. And what I find is that at least with some of them, when I locate somebody that works out, it's usually a very long-term placement. 2 of my attendants that are with me now, one of them's been with me over 10 years, the other one over 12. So it's the type of thing that if it works out, and I'm sure some people have similar circumstances in consumer-directed, but basically, when it works out well. What I do find, and the concern that I've had, is with fill-in and back, where sometimes, even with the agency model, where they do have a roster of attendants, it's difficult to find fill-ins. And I have heard some issues of not being able to find anybody for fill-in or having real difficulty getting a fill-in consumer-directed. Also, at least in New York, there is some salary discrepancies between the agency pay and the consumer-directed pay. Because the way that, at least in New York City, it operates, I think TK could probably speak to this better than I can, but it's not like you're presented with a pool of money from which you actually hire and train them. It's more like you still have to go through the consumer-directed agency as almost a clearinghouse. So it's not similar in other jurisdictions where you actually get a pool of money where you can more easily negotiate and train and find. Where in New York you get almost all the liabilities, or a lot of them, of the agency model, and not as much freedom as, let's say, you'd get elsewhere, and the risk is a little higher. The one aspect of consumer-directed that is important, not for me personally, but I could understand in other circumstances, if you need the attendants to actually do anything that's quasi-medical, that's where the need for consumer-directed comes in. Right. So, using vents or certain medications, something like that, that's where the absolute need for consumer-directed comes in. But interestingly, there are many aspect even under the agency model, where if you are entirely self-directing on it, even something like medication, you could explain, yes, you need to definitely learn to either speak bureaucrat or locate the appropriate bureaucrat to speak to. But something like medications, if they could be made aware and understand that even though the attendant is actually, let's say, opening up the pill bottle and pouring the pill into your hand and lifting your hand to your mouth, it's all under your direction. So it's not like the attendant is really doing anything medical. They're just acting as basically a hand. They're not doing any thoughts or operations, or they're not really doing anything of any medical importance. So you can still, if for whatever reason you're more comfortable in the agency model, or if there are certain circumstances where, let's say, salary might be higher or benefits might be different, you can still maintain your connection to the agency model if you choose to.
Thank you for sharing. It's good that it's worked for you. I don't hear many people that are, thrilled about it. So, I mean, or not thrilled. I don't know if you're thrilled. I don't think anyone's thrilled. But
I don't think, honestly, I doubt anybody's entirely thrilled with anything.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, you just don't, But yeah, no, I mean, it's good to hear all the different options. It really is. And I think it's good and educational. I wish more people would attend for these, but we recorded it, and so maybe they'll watch it, maybe they'll learn.
To a certain extent, I think Mike is doing consumer directed in that he has two guys that have been with him for more than 10 years. So really, that's in essence what consumer direction is all about. Those guys have been with Mike all that time because they have a commitment to one another. And really, the agency is really not that important. It's the bond between the personal assistant and the consumer that's really the important thing.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Well, and it's good that you've also maintained your relationships over the years, and I think
Right.
that's very important as well. It's like if it worked out where we could all just get someone that likes us and stays with us and doesn't change out every other day, then I think that the agency would be just as fine as consumer directed, because in a way it becomes that. I'm sure that your attendants do things for you that are kind of above and beyond agency, right?
Oh, certainly. I mean,
Yeah.
even like everything from like minor wheelchair repairs to
Right.
other things. Of course.
Right, because the relationship develops. So in a way, you're consumer directing eventually. It just, that's kind of how it evolves when you have someone that's in your life like that. For that long.
Yeah, exactly. And honestly, you still need to go through all the normal bureaucracy of medical reevaluations and visits and everything like that both myself and my attendants absolutely hate, because it's a royal waste of time. And, so that aspect of it is never going to be completely removed.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're able to locate people that work out long term, then it really doesn't make a difference what model you follow.
Right. Carlos, what did you were raising your hand, you wanted to say something?
Actually, yeah, I mean, when I first moved here and I was told, oh, you're going to have to deal with the agency, I freaked out because I was like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen to me? Am I going to get some horrible person? Am I going to get somebody strict? Am I going to have to step into the closet in my own home? I was just freaking like, coming from California with consumer driven to agency. But I mean, I just lucked out. Yeah, I have the nurse coming in every maybe once every other month or so. And it gets annoying because she has to see me actually twice a month, not in the month that she does come in. And she even thinks it's ridiculous. But yeah, she takes my vitals and, she's pleasant enough. But the pro So the thing about the pro about agency is you don't have to deal with the pay. You don't have to worry about if the person is not getting paid enough. That's not my problem. That's the agency's problem. They can deal with the agency. Con, yeah, if you get horrible aids, then yeah, that's a con. Or in my case, where I get the opposite, I get horrible substitutes. So it's just like it's kind of a. I get a little anxiety the night before I know I'm getting a sub, and I'm just like, okay, what is this person gonna do? You know, like are they? Or if it's a sub I've had before, are they gonna remember what they did last time with me? And then as far as consumer-driven pros, more freedom, more independence. You can kind of bend, what their responsibilities are, within reason, of course. Con is, like I said before, you have to deal with, they're not getting paid enough, or finding a backup, or just hiring somebody you don't know, like especially if you're not good. I feel kind of weird, but I'm kind of probably like saying what Alana already said. At least what she said. But yeah, so.
Yeah. Well, I really want to thank everybody for coming tonight. I really do appreciate it. Anybody have any last things they want to add before we say goodnight? Or I'm gonna put it off record. I'm gonna unrecord it, and then I want to talk about something on the side that's off the recording.
Wait, I think just to give you my pros and cons.
Oh, okay. Oh, I'm sorry, TK. I forgot.
Yeah, so
I
was working at the Brooklyn Center for Independence and the Disabled. And at the time, I was still with an agency model, but in previous year, in '94 or '95, I had been down to Washington to the National Council of Independent Living Conference, and I met Ed Roberts, and I met Judy Heumann, and I came back to New York with this, like, incredible sense of mission and purpose, and that was what led to me working at BCID, the Brooklyn Center. And then I started working there, and, like, immediately, the aide that was with me, she was like, I can't do that, I can't go to work with you, and she's like, you gotta get approval, and it was, like, just such a rigmarole. And so, like, within the first week, I was like, it's just inconsistent to be working at an IL and yet still going for my care through an agency model. So I really had no idea what the hell I was doing, and I've made plenty of mistakes over the years. But I just feel that there's a certain philosophical purity in consistency and being with consumer-directed care that is really important for me. I agree with Orlando that there's lots of people in the program that have trouble with it either all of the time, part of the time, and they were not very good managers. It's a lot of work. It really is. But in comparison to what I was getting from the agency, Michael talked about people being arrested and corruption. At least in New York City, the home care agencies are rife with all sorts of problems. And one of the reasons that I switched was I didn't realize I'm still doing worse than they're doing. And so, I figured, I can fuck up on my own just as much as they fuck up. So, I didn't have to deal with the bullshit and the bureaucracy and, I've had problems. I've had a few instances where, I got lucky and things worked out at the last absolute second, kind of miraculously. But to me, it's really important to take responsibility to the maximum extent that I can for myself. And this is something I can do. So that's why I do it. And, that's my pros and cons sort of jumbled all together.
Okay. Thank you for sharing. I'm totally on with you. Yeah.
I think if people do, just one more quick comment. I know you want to wrap this up, but I think as a user of both systems, I think if you do opt to do the agency, model. I think it's important to still step up and make sure you're interviewing agencies if you have that option, if you have different. I don't know how it works in downstate, but upstate there is you have a couple of agencies to choose from. And when I was talking to agencies, I was like talking to their directors of nursing and asking them like if it's okay if would they be willing to for me to do the recruiting of the nurses and then sending them over to the agency and the agency hiring them. And I chose the agency that said that would be fine because I think it's a win-win situation for both the consumer and the agency. They're taking away their work for them, and then they're.
I fired my agencies based on philosophy when I did for a brief time have an agency. I remember when one guy basically told me I belonged in a nursing home when he came out to do my evaluation, and I fired them instantly. I was so angry. And I think that's another way to kind of sneak in the consumer direction is to kind of direct the agency. It's kind of like meta consumer direction. It's like deep. Yeah. But I mean, there were some people on Living with MD that responded today and basically said that is that they hire people that go to the agency or then get officially hired, So there's some ways around it. Even without, I think the idea though, ultimately is, to lean towards that philosophy, to start managing it and taking charge of it and know that you're not a victim to whatever they decide to do to you. Like that you can still find a way to turn it around and control things.
Yeah. And if you're new to the whole system, I think those are maybe like baby steps towards doing it.
Right. But yeah. So, what were you gonna say? Were you gonna say anything, TK?
No, I think I'm good. I'm good.
Okay, well, great. I'm gonna stop recording, but I do have something I want to talk about that's off the topic of this thing. So it's not off the well, it's whatever, but it's off the record. But it has nothing to do with consumer directing. It has something to do with something that has nothing to do with it. So I'm just canceling. Do not think you're missing anything if anyone is watching this. Okay. Good night.